Well, hey everybody, how you doing? Dave Fennoy here, Wednesday, and of course, that means Ask Dave Fennoy anything. I hope you're doing well, getting along in this pandemic that never seems to end. I want to thank you for joining me because you could be watching the convention, which I will probably be watching after this. I want to let you know who some of my upcoming guests are. Next week, next Wednesday, Joan Baker and Rudy Gaskins. I just don't know if there's enough room on the screen for the fun and information that's going to be had with those two. After that, King of Audiobooks, Scott Brick, will join me on the first Wednesday in September. And throughout that month, we'll be looking at, well, let's see, there's Randy Thomas, there's Portia Scott, the agent, and tech guy George Whittam. And we'll have some other folks to announce later on. But right now, I want to bring on a buddy of mine. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. Oh, geez, did I say it out loud? Oh, God, now he knows it. J.B. Blanc, what's going on, man?
Sorry, I didn't hear a thing. Hi.
Oh, good. Good.
How are you, Dave?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Good to see you. And
Good to see you too.
let's see, I'll do this split screen. Put myself on the other side. You look a little tired.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been putting 6 a.m. Recording sessions for a while now, and I've worked the last 4 weekends. It's very bizarre, but during the pandemic, I've never been busier.
You know what?
I may have taken up on a bit more than I can handle, but
Well,
you make hay when the sun shines.
well, that's the thing with actors. We're never going to say no.
It's tough to say. You learn young not to say no because you take everything. You want to take everything you can. So it kind of instills it in you, and then suddenly, when you're in a position to say no, you kind of forget, and you just say, "Yes, I'll take it on. I'll take it on."
Yeah. Is it okay? I reveal what you were doing between 7 and 8:30 this morning.
I'm directing a 12-episode scripted podcast called Daughters of DC, which is coming out on September the 15th, wherever you get podcasts, and it's a fun serialized drama about 4 girls in Washington, D.C. who are the daughters of big politicians, and they uncover a corrupt plot. And it's one of them girls is a hacker, and it's an experience with the hackerverse and a Washington prep school, but it's very diverse. With the lead is the daughter of the first black female Speaker of the House. And so we have a botillion where all the young black men are presented to Washington, D.C. society. It's a really fun kind of young adult drama, and it's a radio drama, which is ironic because you and I grew up on radio drama.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we had a little TV, a black and white TV with 3 channels, and so it was radio that we listened to most of all. And in England, there was a play on every day.
I think it's interesting. I think the fact of audiobooks has kind of helped bring back radio dramas. We aren't always at our television, so if you've got one narrator doing an audiobook, well, now you can have this radio drama playing through your radio, and you go back to creating the scene in your mind, which...
Yeah, they don't call them radio plays anymore. They call them scripted podcasts.
Scripted podcasts, yeah, because radio is... Oh, it's such an old word.
Radio.
Well, listen, let me give a little bit of your history, and let me know where I go wrong. You were born in Paris, grew up in England. You went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, yes?
Correct.
And spent about 15 years doing theater in London.
Yep.
And 3 years with the Royal National Theatre.
Correct.
So you know a little bit about acting.
I like to think we're always still learning in this business, but yeah, I've certainly got some years under my belt.
Okay,
sure. And a few extra pounds too.
Yeah, well, welcome to the club. So 2002, you've been in The Count of Monte Cristo, playing the pirate Luigi Vampa. By the way, despite the fact, not a big fan fan of the lead actor there, but I love the story, and I just every time it comes on and I see you in it, it just makes me smile. Wonderfully done. You got here. Was it what you expected when you got to the United States?
No, and for a really kind of specific political reason. When we'd done the Count of Monte Cristo, and Kevin Reynolds, who directed it, who's famous for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and 187, and some other movies. He did the Hatfields and the McCoys, which is a great miniseries on HBO recently. Might have been on HBO, might have been on something else. He was like, "You should come to LA and have a look. I think you do well there." And I come out of a big relationship with the UK, and I thought, why not? I'll come and have a look. And I stayed here for a week with some friends, and I thought, you know what, sunshine, palm trees, a career. People were very enthusiastic about the fact that I've been in a movie. I went home, sold what little I had, and came here with very little money. And then I came via New York, and I went and did some touristy stuff in New York, and I went up one of the towers, and I did the Circle Line, and went to the Met, and did all these touristy things, and then flew to LA, and that was September the 1st, 2001.
Oh,
and 10 days later, September 11th happened.
wow.
The movie was pushed, and the country that I'd got used to for 10 days completely changed. And suddenly I was here without a movie coming out, and not really knowing what to do. And a friend of mine, they were looking for some British voices for an anime called Hellsing, to do a dub. And that was the first voice work I'd ever really done. I'd just done theatre up until that point, and the film.
Okay, how did you perform? How did you feel about it? Were you uncomfortable, or did you fit like a glove, or what?
I mean, listen, it's the first time you walk in, it's alienating. It's a dead box with a big imposing microphone and a glass screen where you're convinced that everyone on the other side is talking about what a crappy actor you are.
Oh, they usually are. No, I'm kidding. They're,
more often than not, they're ordering lunch.
there it is.
And so, but for me, it's always been about character, and so. Really, whatever the circumstances are, if you pay attention to the material you're performing, and you make it about the material and what's on the page and the character that you're portraying, you should really be able to do that anyway. And I think, my training at RADA, and certainly, doing theatre on the street sometimes, certainly in fringe boxes and tiny, with tiny budgets and very little resource, meant that you could tell stories anywhere, really, and that's really what we do. And it doesn't matter whether it's around a campfire or in a 4,000 seat theatre. It's basically the same principle.
Absolutely.
So I felt relatively comfortable. I knew I had a lot to learn. I didn't really know anything about mic technique. I didn't know anything, but I would like arrive early to sessions and watch the person in front of me, or ask if I could sit in, or I would meet people and talk to people, and some very, very kind people, Troy Baker being one of them. I was in a session with him, and he said, "Oh, do you know so-and-so, 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 so-and-so?" And I said, "No, I don't know any of those people." And he said, "Oh, I'll introduce you," and kind of got me rolling in games.
Which reminds me, Troy's a buddy of mine. I need to get him on, too.
Yeah, you should. You should. Absolutely.
Well, so, I like to get people's history, because I think sometimes people feel like your start was at the top, or at least someplace up in the middle, and you just went up from there. Before we go on, a couple people want to say hello. Let's see. Here's I'll start you with a question.
Sure.
Do you think the VO industry will ever get oversaturated with time?
Well, I personally, this might be slightly controversial, but I personally believe there's only a certain amount of talent in the world that's good. And I think a lot of people think they can do this. And that's not to discourage people from trying, but it's not as easy as it looks. And I think that's true of a lot of things. The best professional soccer players make it look easy. The best voice actors make it look easy. And I think for a long time people think you just sort of walk into a booth and do it. It's not. I'm not really being paid for that 4 hours. I'm being paid for the 30 years of grind I've put in until that point. So I don't think it'll become oversaturated Um, Listen, you drive around LA now, and everywhere you look, there's make a voiceover demo. There's trailers with it advertised. There's little stickers on lampposts saying, "Come on, make a voiceover demo." You're either serious about this business or you're not. There are certain ways to go about it. I still believe in those ways. It doesn't mean you can't have a lack of fear or daring and go and knock down doors. But there is no real replacement for talent and hard work. Um, a lot of people say you're so lucky. You're so lucky to have got into that inner circle of video games. I'm like, yeah. Tell the guy who ate rice for a couple of years, who had holes in his boots and was signing on the dole and performing theatre, who lived under a bridge for a period of time because he was evicted. But that's how badly I wanted to do what I was doing.
But you know what? Sometimes I think that there is a certain amount of luck, but it has to come with the hard work as well. I have heard stories of people who happen to be in the right place at the right time. Somebody pulled them in to something, and if they were prepared, it was a stepping stone, a launching pad. If not, they just demonstrated that they didn't have it, and chances are they weren't going to. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a studio and I have the directors complaining about some other actor that came in that was chosen by the company. Oh, we heard the demo. We loved this guy's voice. Oh, we loved her voice. Let's hire her. And because you can dummy up performances now and auditions, once the person got there, they didn't have the acting chops. And that's what everybody's going to remember.
I can tell you as a director now, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. I'm now become that director who goes, why did they send us this guy? He can barely read. He's got a nice quality of voice, but it's not about that. It's about whether he's a good actor or not.
Yeah.
And two things I'd say, two favorite phrases. One is luck meets hard work meets opportunity. And my other favorite phrase is, and it's been true of me, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Absolutely.
It's an old, trope, but it works. It's true.
Oh, okay. I got a couple people here who want to say hello. I'm just going to let them have that. Jeff Burns says, "Hey, Dave. Hey, JB."
What up, Jeff? How are you, buddy?
Chandria Campbell. Hi. Oh no, she's got a hi JB there. And let's see. Oh, Elias Fex. Look at you two handsome bastards. How'd you know?
He's Greek. He doesn't understand.
Jimmy Bancole, privileged to be here. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, JB. And someone with a note, Dave, you're clipping gain-wise. I'll just turn that down a little bit. Thank you very much.
A little bit.
And I think we've got let's see. Hey, Dave, I was referred to you by April Fennoy in Sumter, South Carolina. She knows that your voice acting is a dream, and she knows that voice acting is a dream of mine. So she told me about you. I'm honored to have an opportunity to listen to you guys. Well, thank you, Sammy. I'm sorry that was a personal note.
Perfectly all right, Dave. It's your show.
If if you run into a Fennoy anywhere, they're related.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it must be. No, I haven't heard. Not a name I've heard of regularly.
Oh, as I was going through your resume, it's funny when you're friends. And the person does a lot of stuff, but you don't know all the things that they're doing because we don't, go back and forth and, well, here's what I did. Well, here's what I did. Well, here's what I did. We don't
do that. Good reason.
So I was checking out your IMDb, and we are on a bunch of games together. I mean, just a bunch. Yeah, you never know because we always work by ourselves. But how did you get into the video game thing? What was your first game? How did that happen?
Wow, my first game. God, should I even remember? It might have been something called SOCOM U.S. Navy SEALs that Chris Zimmerman directed, I think, and they were looking for a Northern Irish voice, which is a particularly difficult dialect to do.
And let me hear your Northern Irish.
Dave, now I see you, and I don't know, man. The dreadlocks and all that, I don't know, I see you from Belfast. I kick your ass.
So
Um,
now, one of the things you do, one of the things you're known for are dialects. How did you learn the dialects that you do?
well, I think being musical from a young age was a big help. Growing up in England was a big help because the accent changes every 20 miles or so in England, sometimes less. It's a very small island with a great deal of kind of variety in dialects very quickly. So I think you kind of grow up with an ear. And, I was a French kid in an English school in the 70s. I was bullied. I was, different. I didn't want to be different. So you start making people laugh by doing impressions and goofing around and doing voices. And I just started experimenting that way. Um, and I guess, if I think about it, it's that kind of ear that got me interested in acting in the first place. I didn't know that you could be an actor, and I was just sort of messing around at school. But I had an ear for dialects, and I could do imitations of people, and it just kind of was something that came naturally. But also, one of the problems is, certainly on TV, I have what I like to call "stop me in the airport" looks, which means that I look,
Racially
constantly
ambiguous.
ambiguous. Yes, constantly ambiguous for sure. So, you can see from my TV career, I played a lot of Latinos, Arabs, Israelis, Russians, lots of Americans. Ironically, I've only played a Brit once, and it was on a show that got cancelled called Wisdom of the Crowd. And I get play. I'm just about to start as a Chechen thug on a show called Barry for HBO.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Barry
I
the hitman
yeah, I
who loves
showed up at the end
theater.
of season 2 and grinned, and then we did the table read for episode 1 and 2 of season 3, and then the pandemic happened, so it got closed down.
Ah,
But I'm told it will come back. So yeah, so it was as much out of necessity. It was only when I started, I started coaching. I don't do it anymore because I don't have time, but I started coaching dialects, and then it was much more about breaking them down and studying them in a more individual way. Um, but drama school also, if you go to a good drama school, they do give you a really good basis. They teach you phonetics. They teach you how to study dialects and how to kind of get them as sounding as authentic as you can. And so, a combination of training and instinct, I think.
okay. Well, I ask everybody about their home studio. So, tell me about your home studio.
You catch me in it right now. I I feel like I haven't left in years. It
Well,
feels like years.
and just to reveal, a friend, almost relative of mine, young man, just getting started. He's a good actor, just getting started in voiceover.
Oh, now I got the reference of what I was doing that morning. Sorry, I forgot.
Oh, you
completely
forgot.
blank.
You forgot you were connected to my house
I
in
blanked
my studio
completely. I did.
with
It's
my
been a long
nephew
day. It's been a long day.
playing a part in the story you were just talking about.
That's absolutely true.
You know what? I've been there. Sometimes,
So sorry, Dave.
the civilians, people who aren't in voiceover or acting, and hey, how you doing? Oh, what you been doing today, Dave? Oh yeah, I did a bunch of auditions. Ooh, wow, good luck. Man, I hope you get it. How do you think you did? Well, my answer has now become, well, if I book it, I did okay. I got
I
to
ain't
that
holding my
point.
breath.
You let them
I
go.
do the audition and I move on.
Yeah, you do the
move
audition,
on,
you
and
forget
if
about
the
it, move
phone
on.
rings, so much the better.
And now you're even moving on the jobs.
I'm outraged by that. Yes, I was recording with you, Dave, because I can remember now because of the abuse you were shouting at me in the background. No, we had a very good session with a very, very talented young man
Yeah.
who's never done any voice work really particularly before, but he's a pure actor. He's got the instincts. Needed a little coaching. He needed to be slowed down and make sure that he hits the moments because it is different. You don't have all the paraphernalia that you have on camera to help you tell that story. You've only got your voice, so it's finding the detail and making sure that you don't miss those moments and operating slowly enough to really hit the beats of a scene, which is stuff you learn with experience over time. But as a raw talent, this kid is amazing. He was great.
So
Um,
now,
I'm just surprised he's almost related to you. It's weird.
well,
There's
there's,
no spawns.
there in every gene pool there's some that escape the madness.
Anomalies. Yeah, absolutely. But my home studio is a room at the top of my house. I've put soundproof kind of steel embedded curtains on some of the windows. I have an acoustic wall that comes in behind me. That's this giant thing next to me that kind of unfolds out. And I use a Sennheiser 416, which is just great for my voice and very directional and very good for a home studio if it's not strictly a
Quiet.
home, a proper box. A lot of people I think want to go for Neumann's and very good cardio mics, but they can be very difficult in an unpure environment. A really good mic like a Neumann will pick up a leaf blower a mile away sometimes, and
Yeah.
you need sometimes. So the 416, as you can see here, is a shotgun mic. It's very, very focused, very high quality, very directional. So you have to point right down the barrel, and they use it for ADR in all the films that have ever been made. It's a good solid mic, and then I have what's an SSL2 solid state logic preamp that is fundamentally idiot proof because I'm not very good technically. And I've plugged it in. I know what the knobs do, and I haven't had to worry about a damn thing. So that's exactly
I've got
my
it
kind of
set.
equipment.
Let me glue
Yeah.
these things in place. So if the
Yeah,
cleaning lady
and then
acts,
I use exactly. Yeah, and then I use Adobe Audition to as my software, which I've learned over the years is extremely simple and straightforward and can save in any format and is very versatile. And so just keep it really simple, really. Nothing, no, I mean, I think a lot of people go into boards and boxes and gizmos, and I'm just not that anally retentive about that stuff.
yeah,
I have a couple of really good Yamaha monitors. I can hear stuff very clearly, a really good set of headphones, and you know if your stuff is good or not.
oh yeah,
But during the pandemic, I've been able to record for all the major companies from home. I've done commercial stuff. I've done, and there's never been a problem. The choppers in Hollywood can be a problem. That's it.
and I always ask because we have people that, especially because of the pandemic, they may not have had studios, or they may not have had studios to do the kind of work uh, that we're doing. I think sometimes you can get away if you're doing simple narration,
Yeah.
some simple things, but
Most people are just auditioning really from home.
yes,
For that, you
yes,
don't need a massive setup. I certainly, when the pandemic hit, the first 2 weeks we were home, I spent updating my studio. And I'm someone who's worked a lot, but I knew my studio needed to be better. And it was probably it was overdue. It was some years that I've been thinking, I really need to get my stuff together on the
yeah.
studio.
Well,
And the pandemic was the sort of necessity that hit that spurred me into action, and I'm really glad I did because I started booking the second I had it.
yeah, it's interesting. I like the fact that you talked about the 416, which is my mic of choice. I have a 103 in there, a Neumann 103 in there as well, but 90% of the time I'm on the 416, and my whisper room actually is in pretty good shape.
Very solid, yeah.
But I discover that sometimes very good mics, like you say, need to be in a very good environment. I've learned that if you got a U87, you better have a big room with high ceilings.
Yeah.
The 103 has the same capsule, but is not as sensitive.
Yeah.
The U87 is rather finicky. No, I can't work in this room. I'm going
She's
to.
a fickle mistress. Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes.
I mean, and also there's, top studios in town can have trouble with that. You can get roominess because
Yeah.
it's too good for the environment, or they've put it in too small a studio, or it's amazing that you can go into a professional studio and their setup can sometimes be not great.
Yeah.
One of the most particular clients I work for are Blizzard, and I direct on all their games now. Dave, this I'm one.
Oh
I'm
my
one director.
goodness!
But just to give you an idea, this is the latest expansion for World of Warcraft,
Oh boy!
and that's just I'm
so
one
they,
of two or three
they got
directors.
some
that
me
have
in
been-
there someplace.
I'm sure there's. I'll smell it. I'll smell it out later. The that Fennoy musk that just oozes off the script.
Yeah, there you go.
But I mean that to give you an idea, that's about 4 months solid recording.
Wow.
On one expansion, the most complicated expansion I think we've ever done. And I'm one of 2 or 3 directors who work on the project. So just to give you an idea of the volume of material that
Oh
we're
yeah.
churning out, that's
So,
why I don't leave this room
well,
very often.
speaking of directing, you were directing today. You're probably directing all day. Um, how did you get into directing, and especially directing of video games?
Well, I'd always had an interest in directing, and I directed some plays in the UK and a couple of operas, bizarrely. And I directed a dub when I first moved here, fairly early on. And I've always had I mean, I think part of directing is teaching, and part of it is observation and understanding talent and how they work. It's understanding that you're going to work with the actor who brings the strengths into the booth with them, and you're going to play to those strengths rather than turning them into something they're not. So every single actor that comes in is completely individual, and I just think I had an eye for detail on that stuff. I had a lot of training on text, so being able to interpret that and try and get the actor not to worry about it and still be able to tell the story. Um, I kind of had an instinct for it, and I didn't necessarily know that I had an instinct for it because it often is other people that spot that for you. And for me, it was, you'll remember Karen Fishman at Warner
Oh
Brothers,
yeah.
and they had this game, a little game called Shadow of Mordor, um, Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor, and they flat out asked me to direct it. And I was stunned and flattered and raring to go. I think I think part of it was pure corporate greed in that they got a dialect coach and a director at the same time, because there were a lot of British voices in that. Everything was British. So that I think that was certainly part of it. But I had an aptitude for it, and I really enjoyed it. I really loved doing it. I loved creating these characters and working with game teams. I was not really a gamer, but when you work with people who are that enthusiastic and passionate about what they do, it's infectious and you get infected by it. And you want to up your game to meet their enthusiasm and their passion for what they do. And so I love working as part of a team. I love interacting with actors. This way I get to see all my mates quite regularly because normally we pass like ships in the night, but actually now I get to spend some time with them, which is great. Um, and I think, my theatre background just gave me a good propensity for understanding text, interpreting text, and understanding character and dynamics and how
Yeah.
that should play out.
Yeah. Let me. What I get from you as a director from the other side, I got to watch you work today, and you've directed me on a number of things. Um, you're very specific and simple in what you ask for. You paint the picture because sometimes on one of the games we've been working on a lot together, the scripts are so bizarre, and when I'm looking at them, it's other lines and my lines, but there's lots of different characters, some of whom I may not know what they're about and what my relationship is with them, and we're moving.
Yeah,
We're moving.
yeah,
So you always are very helpful in letting me know, well, what's this relationship? Where am I, and how am I feeling about it? And if I've gone through it a few times, you're one of the few directors that has really good line reads that rather than explain, oh no, how about, and generally as actors we don't like directors who give us line reads, but your line reads always make sense.
I try to avoid it if I can.
Yeah.
The trouble is we're under the gun, and if I've and it's not necessarily the actor's fault because the script can be really obscure, and I've been living with a script for a couple of months or a few weeks. Sometimes it's a shortcut, but I always try and give an actor as many opportunities as I can. Um, I try and avoid. I try. There are tricks like if you just give that nudge on possibility, give on that word, that'll give me this sense I need.
Yeah.
What you also have to remember is that in a video game, every actor is recording individually.
Yes.
So if there are scenes, the way those scenes have been played are all in here. They're in my head and my head alone. Yeah, they're committed to tape, But
Digital tape.
that's not being edited and put into the that's already being dealt with, so we don't have that as reference. Um, for this scripted drama that I'm doing right now, it's extremely difficult because it is a 12-part narrative, and I'm having to track every single actor in my brain to make them all fit together, even though they've never met each other. And actually, one of the things I did before we started was I got some Zoom calls together, and we got the actors to actually put a face to each other and say hi and tell us a bit about themselves, so that we could
Did
try
you
and
do
build those
any table
relationships.
read or anything like that?
We didn't do any table read at all. We just kind of got them together. Normally, we'd have had a rehearsal day and done a table read. Very difficult with delays over Skype and Zoom and stuff like that. It's hard to do.
Oh yeah,
But at least
we went through 3 different ways of connecting today.
today, yeah, I know that was a nightmare. Well, Source Connect, heard Source Connect went down nationwide
Yeah,
today.
yeah, crazy.
The voiceover world basically ground to a halt because Source Connect died for the day. I'm not surprised; it's heavily overloaded.
Let's see.
But
Let me get another question. Let's see. Laura again chats. What are your pet peeves when it comes to voice acting? Now we got to be out of here by 7. So
What do you think she means by pet peeves? I'll tell you what how actors can go wrong. Is that what she means?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah. Not being warmed up. Not being warmed up and ready to go. That's frustrating because I do not need your voice to change from the beginning to the end of the session. I need it to be there at the beginning of the session.
Yeah. Okay.
Actors who don't listen to direction is very frustrating.
Now, do you think it's because they don't want to listen, or sometimes they're just in their head and in shock mode?
It can be any number of reasons. One is fear, which is the great killer of all things. Nerves. A kind of script blindness where they're not really connecting with the material. Um, a desire to read and not really get into the character. That can be half-assing it.
Kind of the belief. Oh, if I just read the words correctly and clearly, then I'm acting.
And you know what? For some things in this medium, that works absolutely fine, but it doesn't work for video games at all because you need to. You'll get a TV actor in to do a video game, and they're playing everything very intimately and very quietly. And actually, for a video game, you kind of need to punch through the mic. It's a different approach to character. You've got to sort of speak past the microphone to have that presence of some of these characters, and particularly if you're doing fantasy work, or there's a place for naturalism in certain very naturalistic games, but in other stuff, you need character.
Bigger than life characters.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at just Blizzard alone,
yeah,
you can have an orc who has this giant voice and has a kind of jutting jaw and teeth, but he could be having an incredibly personal moment, and part of our charge at Blizzard is to take these creatures, which are elves and goblins and gnomes and orcs and wizards and constructs and robots and entities that are completely otherworldly, and make them relate to each other on a human level.
Yeah.
And that's part of the trick with directing for Blizzard is the writers are the artwork is incredible, the writers are so clear on what they want, but you can give them so much more as a director by really, dragging the souls out of these characters.
Yeah.
And you need a partner in that. I need a partner in that. It's not just me, and it's not just the actor. It's a partnership. It's a collaboration between all of us, including the writer. And that's part of what I love, is finding that together and coming up with something amazing and unique and occasionally, emotionally very powerful.
All right. Hey, let me get a couple other questions here. Short answer to this one, I hope. To you both, is there a part you didn't get that you really wanted? I'll answer first. Yes.
No, there isn't a part. There's about 5,000.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Let's see. Michael
on them,
Michael Glover. When auditioning for video games, and your agent is sending you tons of characters to choose from, should you be picky? How many should you submit? And I've seen this happen where I feel like the agent's being lazy, and say there's 10 male roles of all ages, all races, all this, all that, just every description, and they send them all and say, "Oh, choose as many as you want." And
I've seen 20, Dave, recently.
yeah, I think I got that audition too. I think.
Yeah, and I kind of go, you know what? These people know my work. I'll pick a couple, but I mean, it's different for you or me. I think, you know, always put your strongest foot forward. Don't audition for something that is not in your wheelhouse. That's not to say be afraid. Uh, that's not to say don't stretch yourself, but also be realistic. Um, if you're capable of 5 different characters, and people are, but you've got to be genuinely capable of it because you'll really piss us off if you're not. Then I say go for it. Um, if there are 5 roles that you're appropriate for, you're not going to play all 5. So, yes, bang them in, but make sure they're good. If there's 2, that's okay. They're the 2 that you were right for.
If there's one,
If there's one, that's okay. It's the one you were right for.
Yeah.
So just, part of this game is being honest with yourself. It's understanding yourself. Well, as I say, you have to keep challenging yourself. You'll never learn how to do other things if you don't.
Yeah.
Be realistic in terms of what you're going to be casting.
Got a question here from Matthew Bo Martin Jr. Evening, gents. What's a great way to ace a video game audition where you're playing a cop?
I mean, you could be playing a cop in Saints Row 4, or you could be playing a cop in Mafia 3.
I think the wrong idea is I'm playing a cop.
Yeah, you're playing a guy.
You're playing a guy who happens to be a cop.
Right.
And what are the characteristics of this person who is going to be doing these cop things?
Yeah. You're sort of thinking in the wrong terms because it's really about the material. Are you playing a spoof cop? Are you playing a generic, stereotypical cop? Or are you playing a guy who is in a unique situation who happens to be a cop? So I wouldn't say cop is a category of character necessarily. That's like saying soldier is, but you can have any number of people who could be a soldier, male, female, or otherwise. So I wouldn't think, I mean, your job isn't necessarily what denotes character, I don't think, necessarily.
Yeah.
How would you play a baker? I don't know. I'd smell the air a lot and go, delicious bread.
I need to need this bread.
I gotta feel the need to need.
Okay, question here. Jimmy has, what is the market like for authentic African VOs, both in America and international video game industry?
Well, it comes and goes. It comes and goes. But I think every black actor in the business needs to have good African dialects, good West Indian dialects. They're all feathers in your bow. I mean, there can be periods of time where there's not a lot of that stuff around, and then suddenly, Battle for Azeroth, World of Warcraft, tens and tens of African characters and West Indian characters. We had the Zandalari trolls, who are African characters. And I keep having to remind people in America that Africa is not, in fact, a country.
Well, if all the students
dialect
in the world took a test on geography, we'd be last.
Yeah, I mean, and I've had to study African dialects quite a lot.
Yeah,
which is interesting for a white guy. But with the Zandalari, we did not want to have a very percussive thing like a Nigerian accent that was very strong. And then you didn't want to necessarily have something that was South African and very gentle and lilting. Those are 2 polar opposites. They're both African dialects, but they're from opposite ends of the country. So that work comes and goes, and occasionally there's massive demand for it. I mean, we had Battle for Azeroth 2 years ago. It was a long update where we cast a lot of black actors as with African dialects and West Indian dialects.
Wow. Jumping ahead, I think you know this guy, TJ Storm.
I'm familiar.
Yeah,
familiar.
Great actor, and put him in that black suit.
Yeah.
Put the camera on his face and let him go. Let him do all this.
He'll also kick your ass. He's very, very strong in various martial arts, I believe.
JB's an incredible director as well as actor, an actor's director. Brilliant. He's sucking up for a job.
Yeah, good.
And he'll get it too because he's great.
Yeah, he's great. Thank you, TJ.
Oh boy, let's see. Looking for another one here. John Worship question: what emerging realities, tech or otherwise, do you think are changing the scope of video game voiceover? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a terrifying question too. I personally believe. I mean, there's a lot of talk about what Adobe are doing with matching voices and being able to sample an actor and then have that actor portray any emotion. Um, I just don't. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I don't think they'll ever really replace the human brain. The human brain is so vastly faster, so much vastly faster than any computer in terms of emotional instinct. To reproduce that, I think is going to be difficult. But there's some pretty impressive stuff out there, and you know, you've got to be careful now because these companies sometimes are asking you to go to Toronto and be scanned for 3 days. They then pretty much own your persona, your physique, your personality, and what they do with that and how that's permitted out, and I think that's all stuff that we're going to be dealing with in the coming years. Um, I'm very excited about virtual reality if they can get it right, and if they can find a way of delivering it without people walking into walls and falling over. Um, but I've worked on some very, very, very interesting virtual reality stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You know, we've got to the stage now where games want to be movies and movies want to be games, and they both use the same techniques with performance capture, which has been some of the most fun work I've ever done because it reminds me most of theatre, which is what I instinctively started out doing. But I think the worrying thing for a lot of actors is that sort of personality reproduction, the way that you can reproduce a character in a game. I don't think you're ever going to be able to do what a human actor can do. I could be wrong.
Well, for some things, I think voiceover. I think we are going to lose some work.
Yep.
There's the AI voices out there, and much as I don't want to see work go for anybody, I think there's some things that AI is perfect for. If you're just giving instructions on how to put this thing together, taking orders at a fast food restaurant, something like that, no problem. But I also agree with you. I don't think that we're ever going to see uh, AI voices replace real commercials, real narration that we want to have that human touch, that human feel. There's something about the perfect imperfection of how we speak and the things that go on in our brain that color what's coming out here, so that it's not robotic,
Sure.
so that it's based on our thoughts, our fears, our the things we grew up with.
Yeah,
Uh,
you bring all that source material with you, and
yeah,
that's. I mean, this is one thing I want to say to everyone is that all the rough times in your life, they are not deficits; they are godsends because they will give you life experience, and life experience is what you need to perform. You have to use those things. They are your friends. They are what makes you who you are. And the other thing I'd say about the AI stuff is that you might be able to reproduce JB, but can you reproduce JB playing a dragon or that orc or that? That then becomes, you're still going to have to futz with it to make it work. That, and you're not going to get the
and
same
futz with
instinctive
it.
choices that I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
make.
You can't make those choices. Yeah.
No, you don't have
I've
the
got
freedom.
let's see, Dan O'Leary. Like that picture, you can't see it, but I can. Dan O'Leary, hi Dave and JB. An acting question. In short scripts like commercials, how do you guys find or create the character, backstory, context, etc. on the fly, or in a matter of minutes or seconds before the read? Any advice? Thanks.
Practice, 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 and practice.
Yeah.
It's
You,
instinct. I mean, sometimes it depends on the copy. Sometimes the clues are in there. Sometimes it's very obvious. Sometimes the write up is very good. Sometimes the write up is terrible. Sometimes they give you a lot. Sometimes they give you nothing. But to me, I mean, I'm someone who doesn't book a lot commercially, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly. But commercials are more of a crapshoot for me. If I have a character, I can make those choices, and I know that I can take some risks, and I can give something interesting to listen to. The commercial world has always mystified me slightly because it is so subjective in terms of taste for who I've got up for stuff and I've heard the voiceover and it's exactly what I'd done with it. Um, there's other stuff where I'm surprised that I was even in the bucket, that I was even in the pot. It's hard to quantify, but the story is always there, and the character is always telling a story, and so I advise people to read and read and read and read and read out loud and get sample scripts and break them down into their very the very smallest little pieces, and that will help you instinctively. You learn stuff over the years. You learn certain triggers, certain points, certain beats, certain rhythms. It comes with experience. I do believe it can be taught, but I'm not.
I actually think it's easier. I actually think it's easier to teach somebody to be a commercial voice than a video game or animation voice.
Yeah.
Commercials come in a particular form. There's the old style, of course, is problem, solution, call to action. Now, we're joining your life. Sometimes there's no sell in it at all. We're telling a story and shows how and more and more, especially on the newer styles of commercials that aren't so selly, being a character with a point of view, regular guy, regular girl. Yeah. And I know now I've done a lot of commercials, thankfully, and continue to book them. But I think it's because one, I've worked in a lot of genres. I came out of radio. I read a lot of copy. I know how to sell words when you need to sell words. And the biggest thing for me when I came to LA was learning how to not sell the words. And you have to be able to go back and forth. I'm a character in just playing a human being or something that's like a human being. Or now I'm trying to get you to buy this thing, and I've got this little phony smile, and it's going to be wonderful, and you're going to love it. And be able to do that and make that switch now.
But also, the commercial that you're making for a market in Minnesota is going to be different from one in New York or one in Los Angeles, and that changes everything too. There are more sophisticated markets, there are less sophisticated markets. It's
couple hellos here. Janet Peters. I don't know if you know Janet. Wonderful voice. So right. Happy to be able to jump in tonight. Say hello. Well, hello, hey. Janet. Let's see. Jim, I agree with your take on AI. Nothing can take the place of the human voice. Question. Do you have any tricks or tips for marketing standpoint on getting started in video games? Maybe an indie or low-tier games? Tricks or tips for marketing from a marketing standpoint for video games?
I mean, getting a damn good demo reel. Getting a damn good demo reel is good, but not making it until you're ready to make it is better.
Although I in my PDF for voice acting for video, I have tips and techniques, not tips and tricks, but and there are some tips, but I think when you start talking about tricks.
Yeah. It's looking for a shortcut. There isn't one.
Yeah, and there's not one. Good acting. Have a good demo. If you don't have an agent, do your marketing. There's no quick, easy way to do this other than doing the work. And either you're going to have an agent that's getting you out there, or you're going to be getting yourself out there.
I think when you're young, you want to get in there right away, and sometimes you're not ready, and sometimes you'll have a longer career. There's no point in starting a career when you're not ready and being crap, because you will get remembered as being crap. Whereas if you do your diligence, I came here, I was already trained actor, I'd had years of theatre under my belt. I had a head start. I'm the first to admit it, and I met some great people, and I got lucky. I then started making really strong choices and delivering characters that people wanted to listen to, and I think there's no replacement for that. I think when you start talking about tricks, you are talking about what's the shortcut? Is there a secret? There is no secret. The secret is there is no secret. The secret is it's hard work and dedication and commitment. Marketing yourself properly when you're ready to be marketed, when you've got something to show, making brave choices. Be not afraid. As a director, it's very hard to drag a performance out of you. If you're big, I can mold that and I can play with it, and you're making commitments to me that I can play with. But if you're a mouse, I haven't got a prayer. There's no character there.
Yeah.
I can't generate that for you.
Rather push you back than have to try to pull it out of you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the worst. It's the worst. And you all feel it in the studio as well. It's just like, everyone's energy sinks, and you think, oh my God, how am I going to get this out of this guy? And, short of a car vault, 20,000 volts up the bum.
Hey, I got another one here. J. Horace Black. I currently don't play video games. Do you think it's important as an actor auditioning for video games that we have some experience actually playing them? Atari was the last game I played, LOL. Oh, you can get the part as the.
I could have.
You can be Pong.
That was me. No. I don't think it's essential to play video games because they are a storytelling medium. I think now with YouTube, you can go on and see how dynamics work in games, how the characters relate to each other, how they react to each other in battle, how they react to each other in a personal scene. There's YouTube. I mean, listen, when I started out as an actor, if I wanted to research a role, I went to the library, I checked out 7 books, and I read them all. You guys have Google. You've no idea how blessed you are to have that kind of wealth of information at your fingertips. I don't think you really understand, unless you were pre that internet revolution, just what that means. YouTube is a massive resource. I think understanding a bit about how game mechanics work is good. I don't know that you get that from playing a game rather than working on them. I think as opposed to working on them, you tend to get a lot more insight into how games are built. But you really only need that when you're moving to a director. I still maintain that an actor of any kind is a storyteller, and your priority is to tell the story. And you can do that in whatever medium. You should be able to do that in whatever medium you approach. And so it starts with good acting. If you're a good actor, you'll make a good video game actor. But people want to skimp on the difficult part, which is 3 grueling years of training that I did.
Yeah.
And then making horrible mistakes on the stages of London. Going, why am I even thinking I could do this? Having those real failures and learning from them. There's no real replacement for experience, and there isn't really a shortcut for it. But just get out, do stuff all the time. If it's a little theater group, if it's an indie film, whatever it is, get experience. Live life, get experience.
Well, I am not a gamer.
No, neither am I.
And I've been in close to 500 video games, and they keep hiring me.
I know. It's remarkable.
So it really isn't about, you have to do this. And as a teacher, often I get students who have been playing video games, and because they love playing them so much, they want to be an actor in them. Some of them actually have some acting talent, and they're going to do okay, and perhaps the fact that they play games gives them another perspective that an actor that might not have. But I've seen the opposite too, where the fact that you love playing them and you're really good at them does nothing for you as an actor.
No, and I've seen very good people who couldn't hack it quit, and I respect them for it. I've also seen people stay in the business and keep trying too long when really they should probably have hung up their hat. And if it's not for you, it's not for you, and that's okay. There are plenty of things to do in life. There's plenty of connections. A lot of people who build video games are video game fans because they're really at what I like to call the deep nerd, the Piccadilly line, which is the deepest London Underground line, the Piccadilly line of video games, where they really are obsessed with the mechanics. And maybe they had a dream to be a voice actor, but then they get in a booth and do a scratch track for the game they work on, and they realize that they would. It was like, oh God, I should never have been. It's amazing how many developers say to me, I did a scratch track. I don't ever want to be a voice actor.
Okay, I got a question for you. I got a question for you. Without mentioning names, what was the worst experience you had as a director with a celebrity that was brought in to play a character?
Man, I've had really good experiences with celebrities. One guy walked in and said, "Listen, kid, I don't really want to be here, so let's get over this. Let's get this over with as quickly as possible." Quite a big name. And I said, "Well, that's fine, but you said yes. So why don't we do something good? If you could certainly afford to say no. You don't have to say yes. But I get spoilt because I've dealt with some really amazing. I mean, I got to direct Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd in a Back to the Future section of a video game for Lego. Come on. That same game, Gary Oldman was my lead villain.
What?
Yeah, I've got a
What?
picture of me and him together. Yeah, absolutely. And so I have very little patience for badly behaved celebrities because I figure if Gary Oldman could come in and be an absolute dream, and at the end of the session still be saying, "Is there anything else I can do to help you?
Well, you
Do
know,
you
that's
need anything else?"
because he
If
has
he can
that.
do it, then
He has
bloody
that thing you
so
have
sick.
and that I have. At the end of the session, you're a little sad.
Yeah, because you're not working anymore. Your last job just ended.
Well, you know, it's
No
that,
matter how
but
exhausted
you're
you are.
not playing anymore.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was playing. I was having a good time. Oh, mommy, do
Yeah.
I have to go home?
And you and I often go, "Well, that session was too short."
Yeah.
You know, we wanted to do a lot more material. But Gary Oldman had to play a scenery chomping, moustache twirling villain, and he kicked its ass. He went further than I could ever have asked him to. And there was a thing with his agent where they said we could only have him for 2 hours, and he was like, "Screw them, I'm staying, man. No, let's get this done." And it was absolutely amazing. And I figure, like, if he can, I mean, you're Gary Oldman, for God's sake. If he can be well behaved, no one else has any excuse. Now, sometimes with celebrities, it's a test. They want to see whether you're worth your mettle, whether you know what you're talking about. Thankfully, with me, they generally find out that I do. And then they open up, and you know what? Most of it is fear, Dave. Most of it is fear. They've got a lot to protect, and they're frightened of being exposed or being, put on the spot and not being able to deliver what they're known for delivering. It's a scary place to be, and as a director, you have to understand that bad behavior is generally because of fear. I've had worse experience with. I had one celebrity who I'd start to give a note, and they go, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah," and then they talk and do the same line, the same bad way they did it already. Then I tried to give them the direction again, and they go, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah," and they hadn't heard the direction, and they did it again the exact same bad way until I finally go, "All right, listen, motherfucker." This is the way we have to do this. If you're not hearing the direction, you're never ever going to get this. So we either play or there's the door.
Wow.
And I have no qualms about doing that. I have no qualms because honestly, so there's this other old adage, which is that, celebrities in video games, the company gets a kick out of it. Most of the fans, they're not going to know that it's Kiefer Sutherland playing so-and-so, or, they don't really mind. They just want a good story. They just want good characters drawn broadly and beautifully and in detail and done well. There are good ones and there are bad ones. My experiences have generally been good. I will say that.
All right. Well, you know what? We're just about at the top of the hour.
Oh, it's too short, Dave. Again, we don't get to play anymore.
That was such a great answer to my question. I'll give you one more. But we're getting a lot of thanks from a lot of people. And Laura, who has asked has asked again. Any advice on networking?
Oh, you just asked the world's worst networker. Listen,
I'm going to tell a little something on you because I've got on some of this. Your website is up there, and I went to your website today. You haven't been on your website in a while, which tells me two things. One, you're not really all that technical savvy with the internet, and two, you're working a lot. You're busy, and don't really need at this point to update it for any reason, to fool around with it, because
it's terrible because you Badley Bakers and all the top guys really do their websites. I've not gotten around to having someone help me out with it, and it is eternally to my shame. It is lame, and it's been on my list for a long time. But I'll just give you an example. Since March, for the last month and a half, I haven't had a weekend. And I've been working every day. So I've been directing Daughters of DC from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., Blizzard from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., casting, script edits, getting comps ready till 10 o'clock at night. My own daughter, when you walk downstairs and your kid goes, "Who the hell are you? Have you got any food?" You know you've been working a little too hard. So for me, and this sounds like a humble brag, but it genuinely is a question of time. I love to teach. I don't have time. I get asked to teach all the time. I don't have time. I wish I did. but so I'm not great at the networking, but I have to say there are now amazing events for voice actors. There are amazing game events. There are conventions where you can meet voice actors. There are the stuff that you and I have been involved in, Dave, that are very good networking events. And we do remember, when you meet someone extraordinary or you work with someone in the class, we do remember. There are a lot of classes that you can do where visiting directors come in.
Yeah. Those are
Very
some of the
handy.
most popular classes in Los Angeles. But I'm going to give you a caveat. Don't do those classes until you're ready. Because what you want to
Gonna have
do
the
is not
adverse
just
effect.
meet the person. You want to impress that person.
Yeah, you've got to be ready to do that because it will have the equal opposite effect if you're not up to it.
Yeah.
That's certainly true. I mean, listen, getting social media right, getting websites right, all that stuff that I'm really not very good at because I'm from a bygone age. Um, it's all stuff that I say to myself every year. I will get better this year at doing that. But unfortunately, I think it's going to result in me hiring someone because I'm not very good at it.
Well, yeah, that's what I do because I certainly suck at it.
But
But
there's a point where you're working, and
Yeah.
if you're working that hard,
But-
it's hard to see the need.
it's kind of like I tell people with their demos, your demo needs to be better than mine. I'm working. They're not hiring me off my demo. They're hiring
No.
me off either reputation or the audition.
Yep.
So if you're still knocking on those doors, make sure your stuff is right. JB can get away with
go
it.
to someone who's going to tell you that that you're not right. Don't be afraid of being told you're not ready. Don't
Yeah.
be afraid of being told what to work on. Don't take offense at it. Don't be hurt by it. It's a gift. It's a gift that you need to know how to get better. Because I'll tell you this, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm not jaded. I still want to get better. I'm as critical of myself as I ever was. And I'm still pushing myself to be better with every single audition that I submit. Otherwise, I don't want to bother.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't get time to do my auditions, which is my agent will shoot me for that one.
It's funny because I say our real job is auditioning. When you're on the job,
It is,
it's
yeah.
fun, and I joke sometimes. Oh, geez, I got a job. It's going to get in the way of my auditions. But oh yeah, that's right. That's why I'm auditioning.
It's slightly different when you're directing because I can be booked up for the next 8 weeks, and what's the point of my auditioning? Because I know the production company aren't going to want me to go and if you're the director, you can't really say I can't make it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That doesn't really work. So I'm very lucky. I have a super agent who's very patient with me, and I'm lucky enough to get asked to do stuff, and I can do that way. But yeah, it's don't be an asshole. That's one of the big ones. Just don't be an asshole.
Oh, so true, so true.
Because it just wastes everyone's time.
And they can hire somebody else. Assholes either
Everybody's
don't get the
replaceable.
job or they get replaced.
I'm replaceable. Dave's replaceable. You have to have that in your mind every single time because that is true.
Yeah.
You're only as good as your last gig.
Well, listen, it's 7:03. I told
my
you
God.
I'd have you out of here by 7 because you got stuff to do.
I do.
But listen,
Not least feed a child.
JB, love you, man, and you were just fantastic. So much good information, and it gives me a chance to hang out with you a little bit. And I know I'll at least hear you in my headphones on some game
terrifying thought.
coming up before too long. So I'm gonna say goodbye to you. And
Thank you for
thank
doing
you
this,
again.
Dave, and thank you for all you do for the community and having me on. It was a real honor. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. And
Okay,
wow, JB Blanc, fantastic. Once again, a reminder, coming up next week, Joan and Rudy. Joan Baker, Rudy Gaskins, of course, they put on That's Voiceover and the Sovis Awards. Scott Brick, one of the kings, if not the king of audiobooks. Randy Thomas will be with us. Portia Scott will be with us. George Whittam will be with us. And other people that you really want to hear from. And I see Jack Daniel on there. He probably wasn't here the whole time. But Jack, I'm going to get you on here too. That said, gotta go. See you next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Ask Dave Fennoy Anything.